everybody, and welcome back to The Hobby Musician. I'm really excited because today you're joining us for the grand finale of the current custom kit building project that we've got going on. Now don't worry, if you missed any of the previous episodes coming up to this, the building phases, I put them all together in a short playlist, and I'll put a link to that playlist in the corner of the screen right now so you can go back in and get caught up on all the in-depth steps we did. Now, my goal for today's video is sort of a two-part. In the first half, I want to just kind of reveal it, talk about the general impressions. I want to kind of review like the kit, the company, and sort of talk through some of the things I learned during this building process. Now, the second half of the video is why do we build any instrument? To play it. So we're going to go through and take it through all of its paces to show you the wide variety of tonal options that you have available on this. Okay, without further ado, here's what we've been working on. I am proud and pleased to present to you our modern style headless 4-string bass guitar from Pango Music. Now, the same disclaimer that we've had in our previous episodes, we're not sponsored by the company. It just happened to be the one that after all of our homework, we ended up going with. They were incredibly responsive, and they offered us a lot of the custom touches that we were looking for in this kit. Now, the kind of overview of this, you can already see it's got this gorgeous kind of, figured maple top here. And we went through kind of my first ever real like in-depth multicolor staining process, which it turned out gorgeous. And as you can see too, yeah, the hardware here, this is a headless instrument. This is my first experience ever playing with, or in this case, building something with headless hardware. And we'll talk about that a little more in a second. But the neck profile turned out perfectly. That was the big kind of request that we had for this kit. We changed, or we asked for a different neck profile, and it turned out amazing. It's exactly what we sent them. So overall, I mean, this is a solid kit. This company was great to work with. And after everything was said and done, this is a really good instrument. So a couple of the impressions that I promised you, this is full transparency. While all of the hardware, everything, I would say is, A+ quality. This was a really good kit. There were two things that I kind of thought were not necessarily cons, not downsides, but just things to consider. The first one is very minor. When I was getting to the ending phases of putting this all together, I was getting the knobs on, getting the switches in, the finishing cosmetic touches. Well, I realized, I looked around in the kit and there weren't any strap buttons. So you see right here, like the little brackets that you have and you hook your strap to when you're playing. There's always two, right? One for each side. But this kit, I think it got overlooked in the packing up. The kit did not have them. Again, I said it's minor. I just hopped onto Amazon for like $8. I bought a pack. You can get any color you want. So I'm being honest, right? I want to be transparent about this building process, but it was a very minor thing. And I really genuinely think it was probably just an oversight. I think that they're supposed to be in the kit. Now, the second thing, again, I have a hard time calling it a con or a downside. I really don't think of it that way, but it has to do with the electronics. And one of the great things that this company did, now this bass comes, and I imagine they do this with other kits too, this is an active electronics setup. So this means there's a battery-powered preamp that has a 3-band EQ. Now that can get a little intensive with the wiring. So what this company did, they pre-wired everything. The preamp module was already wired to all three of the EQs. They had stickers on the backs of the pots for B, M, T, bass, middle, treb. And same thing, volume and blend. This is a blend knob. All of it was pre-wired. And so they packaged it up. You could pull it out and it was a really nice thing. Now, I can't say that it was all wired because if you've ever done a project like this, you know that there are some components that just cannot be pre-soldered. Pickups cannot be pre-soldered because the wires from the pickup, first, when you insert them, you have to feed them through holes in the body to get to the electronics cavity. Same thing, if I turn this around, this has a power, right? It's a powered preamp, so there's a battery compartment. The wires that feed from the battery needed to be fed through holes, so they couldn't be pre-wired. Now, why am I talking about this? Well, Although so much was done, when I kind of looked around and I got to the point of just needing to connect up like 1 or 2 solder joints for these remaining things, I looked around and there wasn't any kind of wiring diagram included. I went back to the website, looked around on the kit with all the specifications. Again, no wiring diagram. And I'm kind of two minds of this. For me specifically, I have done enough projects, I have wired so many other guitars that with a little bit of detective work, I sat down, kind of scoped it out, did some deductive thinking, and I figured out where the wires needed to go. So for me, not a problem. But I started to think about, what if somebody out there picked this kit for their very first build? What if they were just getting into this? I do think if somebody doesn't have experience soldering and just sort of that built up knowledge of generally where wires go, I do think that potentially could be a stumbling block if somebody's brand new. So again, is it a con? Is it a knock against the kit or the company? Not really. It's just maybe an opportunity for improvement. But again, as I said, overall, I was very, very happy with the quality of the products, everything else that was included. It was a good, solid build. So I have every reason to believe any of their other kits would be up to the same standard. So again, even though we're not sponsored by them, I will go ahead and put a link to their site down below the video if you want to check out any of these kits for yourself. Now, before we get to the playing, I do want to spend just a little bit more time talking about the headless nature. As I said a second ago, I've never built or played an instrument or spent a lot of time with an instrument that was headless. And all that means is if you kind of check out from start to finish, there is no head, right? The normal headstock tuning pegs is gone because engineering-wise, they just flip it. They move all of the tuning capabilities down to the bottom, which means there's no need for that extra chunk of wood, which can add to the weight and maybe make the neck dive if you like let go of your guitar, that kind of thing. So there's reasons behind it. What that means is up at the top now, this new hardware just functions as a clamp. There are 2 different places. You actually clamp down the strings on the top and you clamp in the strings. They just pinch. There's no tuning that happens. All of the tuning is rotating instead of those big kind of paddle style knobs that many of us are used to. Now they're just rotating barrels down here. And I discovered, as I looked into this, there's essentially 2 types of ways that companies make these kind of rotating tuners. One style is that you can actually take off like a cover and they're hollow, and you would feed the string through the actual barrel, and then the ball end of the string catches, you feed it all the way up, pinch it up there, and then you can rotate it back or forth to tighten or loosen it. The second type, the second general type, is not hollow, and that's actually what this brand is. There are brackets, I'll put up some close-up pictures here, that when you loosen or you kind of unscrew all of them out, you'll see circular brackets that are sort of perfectly designed, perfectly cut to accept the ball end. And when you feed that ball end in, you start to screw them or tighten them, and it draws it back kind of under this shield. And as it's drawing it back, it puts tension on them. So that is kind of how you accomplish the tuning. The note that I'll give everybody out there is there's a little bit of a difference when it comes to kind of maybe the traditional experience. If you're used to, like I am, if you're used to having the paddle style tuners, there's a basic physics principle going on here that when you go to turn something or apply torque, rotational torque to something, when your fingers can be further out from the axis you're rotating around, so a paddle, like those wide paddle things, you can put your fingers on the edge and spin it. Well, your fingers are wide away, you can apply more torque, and so it feels easier to spin. Now what happens is, to fit everything in here, this is not a knock on any particular company, it's just physics. When you try to cram them down to these barrels, it brings your fingers closer and closer together. So now you actually lose a little bit of leverage. So it might take a little getting used to the fact that even though these are really well lubricated, it's good quality hardware, when you go to tune them, it will feel a little harder to turn because of some basic physics going on. And then that gets even more if you're looking at a bass guitar where the strings are thicker, the tensions are higher, that kind of stuff. But all in all, I'm really excited to kind of see how this all plays out and everything. So without too much further ado, I'm gonna go ahead and get things switched up here, get a setup going, and we're gonna take you through all of the different tonal options that an instrument like this can offer you. So give me a second, I'll see you just back here in a minute. All right, everybody, here we are and we're ready to go. As far as the signal chain that I've got set up, I'm going out of this bass into my helix, and I really don't have a very complicated patch. A touch of compression at the start, and then it's going into an Ampeg SVT amp. So nothing fancy, and we're gonna leave that unchanged throughout the whole demo so that any kind of tone variations you hear really are coming from the settings that we can do on this bass. Now, to start off, let's hear what the passive pickups sound like first. So we're not going to turn on any of the powered active side yet. We just have a blend control. So when it comes to passive, we've got a volume on and off. And then right now, I'm just going to go all the way up to the neck so we can kind of hear what that tone is. These are humbuckers. We can just hear what that passive tone is and start to hear what the variations are. So just kind of a simple demo something. Pretty solid neck sound. So now I'm going to blend it all the way down. Now we're at the bridge pickup, so we can kind of hear what the difference in position is going to do to that tone. So trying to play the same riff. So still, it's kind of that traditional or normal, a little clearer articulation kind of at the bridge and a little warmer, rounder sounding at the neck. Now, like I said, we can blend it. So there's a little center kind of notch in these tones. So I actually put it right in the middle. So now it's a 50-50 blend, and just a quick kind of taste of what that is. Kind of here, there's a little bit of both in there. Okay, now the moment we've all been waiting for. What about the active side? So, as I said before, it has a 3-band EQ. So that means we can really we can boost or cut any of the 3 kind of chunks of the sound spectrum. But right now, I've got them all dead straight. So 12 o'clock, meaning I'm not boosting or cutting anything. It's just what the system sounds like. And the very first time that I started experimenting with this, I noticed that this preamp system has a lot of power. It's kind of like a built-in boost or overdrive pedal to certain degree. So when I turned this on, the first song that came to mind was actually The Middle from Jimmy Eat World. It just has that punch. It's got a little snarl, a little aggressiveness to it. So I grabbed a pick, and then I just started playing like a little bit of that bass line, and it really kind of fits. So we've got it flipped on, and then now I'll just try to get a couple bars into there so you can hear what I mean. But I gotta turn the volume on first. Here we go. So just a really nice kind of tone if you want to do like punk rocky, grungy rocky. But as I played with it more, you can really tune that in and out just by little adjustments that you make to the volume knob. So it's a really versatile preamp even before we start messing with the EQs here. Okay, so what if we do want to start messing with the EQ? Now, a lot of times, you may already know this, that sometimes your playing style can sort of lead you to make choices when it comes to how to set your EQ. For example, if you're primarily a slap player, you might want to set things a certain way, primarily a finger style, or if you do little tapping riffs in your music. Different kind of choices will lead you to make different decisions. So here's what I wanted to do to show that. I'm going to take the treble and I'm going to boost a little bit of the treble. I'm actually going to dip out a little bit of the mids and boost a little bit of the bass. Now I made that change, but first I'm actually going to turn off the preamp. So we're back to the passives. I am going to play just a little bit of a tapping, just simple chords, nothing fancy, but I want you to hear kind of how it sounds just with the passive pickups, and then we'll kick on the preamp to see how we can accentuate that even further. So this is the before version. Like I said, nothing fancy here. So still sounds good, but now if we kick that on, let's continue playing that phrase, kind of get further into it and see the difference that we can hear. To my ears, the boosting of the treble, boosting of the bass, it really does help to bring out some of that extra articulation, the attack of the notes, while the bass end kind of helps to leave that big foundation of tone coming through as the chords kind of carry into the next one. So sometimes even just subtle changes like that can help emphasize a playing style or a choice that you've got in your music. Now here at the end, the last demo that I want to do is I want to show you kind of how you can take this to the extreme. That was a subtle demonstration of how you can enhance something. Now let's go crazy. I'm going to go back to the treble. I'm going to take all the treble out. Treble's gone. I'm going to boost a little bit of the mids, but I'm going to boost the bass all the way up. Now this is basically going to remove any sort of clarity of the note, but it's just going to give us kind of a synth bassy, just all low end sound, which starts to sound like you have effects pedals turned on. And when I was messing around with all of these, again, another song popped into mind. It's Uprising by Muse. They had that low, there's some effects on theirs, but it just has that low, really throbbing kind of synthy sound. Which kind of sounded like that to me. So I'm gonna also bring it up to the neck pickup to just really get as much kind of warm, round tone. So you can kind of have something that starts to sound like this. Again, just super low, super synthy. But here at the end, I hope you can see that just between the passive pickups and the abilities that we have to kind of move around all of the EQs on this active side, I'm just thrilled with how this whole instrument turned out. And I hope you've gone along with us and you've gotten something out of this process. So as always, thank you so much for watching. And until next time, play on, my friends, play on.